every day of our lives, we're surrounded by other Native people. We're working for Native issues. We're, educating people on Native issues. But there's a lot of people who never come in contact to Native people other than, whatever, their random neighbor or these historical stereotypes. And so I really wanted to write stories about contemporary Native people doing what they do, like preserving culture, preserving community, promoting their community, dealing with problems that you have. How am I going to fund my nonprofit? How am I going to pay find a place to live when I don't have very much money? How do I pay off my student loans? So trying to figure out how to tell stories about people who, especially with Crooked Rock, because it's a urban community, that finding your community when you're not in your home place.
So this week, we've got this very cool Trailblazer.
I know, I'm so excited.
So everybody, the way the Trailblazer series works, for those of you who are new, many years ago, we decided, Jen and I sort of looked around and we said, somebody should really be taking the oral history of romance. And who would that be? Who should be doing that?
Who should be doing
and
this?
And we said it to each other, for about a year. And then we were like, oh no.
I guess that we can do it.
We're volunteering ourselves to do this. Well, first of all, welcome everyone to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor.
And when we made this decision to start collecting the kind of oral history of romance, we were like, we're going to try to collect as many of the early voices that really built the house of romance as possible. And so we made this big list, and you've been with us through a lot of these interviews. We've talked to everyone from, Nora Roberts and Sandra Brown to Jude Devereaux, and we've talked to Beverly Jenkins and Brenda Jackson and to E.E. Ottoman and to Radcliffe and Vincent Virga. And we've really tried to make this kind of big, expansive list of all of the people. And we have thought a lot about, is it possible to find the firsts? Now, of course, in romance, it's not possible to find the firsts in a lot of ways, because in many ways, we're talking about people who've chosen pen names, who are writing under names that are not their own, who are writing outside their identity. But we're doing our best to find the firsts. And Pamela Sanderson has been on our list for a very long time.
Yes.
Pamela writes urban Indian romance. Her series is called the Crooked Rock series, and it's all set in a city, and all of the books are about Native people together creating community. The first book is called Heartbeat Braves. It's terrific, and we're so excited to have her today.
It is really remarkable in some ways to think about the way that romance writers approach getting stories about themselves and their communities into the hands of readers.
Yeah. One of the things that I found really powerful was her talking about, she's literally out there pressing the book into hands of, young women who she believes will find them enjoyable. Before we start, though, I do just want to say a couple of episodes ago, we talked to Julia Whalen about the audiobook of my book, These Summer Storms, and how there is a reference in These Summer Storms to the land once being the home of the Narragansett Indians. And we talked in that episode, we were talking about pronunciation and language, and I said we had difficulty finding the pronunciation, the verbal pronunciation or the audible pronunciation of a particular word from the Narragansett tribe. The Narragansett Indians come from the Algonquin family of Native people. And in that episode, I referred to it as a language that hadn't been spoken in several generations. And I'm so grateful because Vanessa on our Discord, who is part of a tribe that is part of the Algonquin community, told us that Algonquin languages are still being spoken and now being spoken again. She referenced this as these languages have been sleeping, and the Indian nations that have had these sleeping languages are waking them up again.
I love it.
She said she's not sure about whether or not these languages are always actually available to the public. So it may be a question that like we just couldn't find it in that way. But she wanted to underscore that they do have programs now in places where the Narragansett Indian nation exists and lives to revitalize this language. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to Vanessa for making sure that I knew that. And I wanted to just say it here too, that this is something that I've just learned and I wanted to share it with all of you. And thanks for the Discord. That's how we learn stuff.
Yeah. Well, and we'd said like, we'll do it for the next episode. And then I was like, and here's the next episode. So what we're going to be doing today, as you all know, is we will transition in a second to running the audio. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of like wrap up with the two of us, just sort of like kind of talking a little bit about the things we heard and what we were interested in. And we hope that you will check out the Crooked Rock series from Pamela Sanderson, which is a really great read.
Here we go. So we are so excited to have you, Pamela Sanderson. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Well, I will tell the story that you've been on our list for years to reach out to. And when I finally sent the email, you wrote back right away and you said, "Oh, I know the podcast. I'm a member of the Patreon," which was crazy and so fun. And I immediately texted Jen in all caps, Jennifer, which is what I do when I have something exciting to say.
I always say, what did I do now?
So yeah, I'm a little bit new to the podcast. So I have a friend who works in like science related and I work in law related. And so she sent me the romance law and romance science. That was when I kind of more started subscribing and really following. But actually the very first episode I ever heard was the Jessica Kane one.
Oh,
yeah, I know. It was
New Year's Eve.
Yes, it was so awesome. And I don't know how I found that, but I was like at my mom's and doing work and listening to this and just howling.
Oh,
great.
That was a really fun one. But we are so excited because we've been doing Trailblazer interviews for a long time, and we've been doing a lot of work trying to place the early voices in genre. And so in some cases, that's really easy. Like we can say like, okay, who started the genre, or who wrote the first sports romance or whatever. But in this case, we are so excited because we believe that you are, if not the first, one of the first Native authors writing Native characters in contemporary romance. Would you agree that you might be first?
It kind of feels like that. Yeah. Because I remember when I first started, because I was trying to kind of like, who do I want to model myself after? And I'm Googling or, putting into Amazon, like, okay, Native American. And the things that were coming back were really terrible.
Yeah.
And so I was like, really? Like, really? So then I felt kind of excited about it because I thought, okay, well, at least if I'm putting myself out there, it's something that I don't have to worry about who I'm competing against like I'm doing something different.
So would you talk a little bit about your relationship to romance prior to that? How did you come to romance? Were you a reader?
Yes, I will. Actually, I just want to just for people who care about this kind of stuff, I am an enrolled citizen of the Karuk tribe. That our tribe is a federally recognized tribe in Northwest California on the Klamath River. And I was not raised in my tradition, but I have lifetime social and cultural contacts with my community. I go there almost every year of my entire life. My mom was there. My sister spends time there. I have a huge extended family there. And then in my professional life, I work with tribes for the last 30 years.
So is there like a history in like when you think about like Native American literature, like writ large, is there a space for like romance or love stories in it that's kind of obviously different than like when we think of like genre romance? Like when you came to writing the Heartbeat Brave books, like did you think about that in like a larger context?
I don't know. Maybe this answers your question. So when I very first started thinking about writing, and looking at Native, Louise Erdrich, looking at these different writers, M. Scott Momaday, not that I'm comparing myself with them, but just I felt like I have to tell, Native people write important, serious stories. And it was a lot, like it took a kind of a roundabout way of thinking of why aren't there stories like this? Like, why do they have to only be serious stories? Can't there be fun, happily ever after? I mean, I feel like in my stories, they do deal with issues, but they also, things work out at the end, why we come to romance.
Let's take a step back. Let's go to like young Pam.
So I for sure think like really that little girl with the prince and the saving the princess and living happily, like that imprinted on me from the beginning. Everything I read, it's like, are people going to get together and be happy at the end? I'm really invested in that. But for romance, I feel like I was trying to look back, and the author name I remember is Joanna Lindsay. But when I was looking up the titles, they were all Kathleen Woodowitz. So those two writers I read a lot. And then I think I read some category, and I was a huge reader. Even like my mom was a elementary school teacher and a school librarian, and she had a reader, and she, as fast as she could, I would read stuff. She was giving me stuff. I read horror. I read big sci-fi and fantasy fan, a little bit of mysteries, a little bit of suspense, anything popular. I always like to read. For a while, I read every single Stephen King book. I loved Anne Rice. So like early reading, like 80s reading, that was kind of stuff. When I was first thinking about writing romance, those are the kinds of things I was reading.
Were you a writer too as a young person?
Yeah, I wrote lots of little stories. I know I wrote, when I was very little, I wanted to write a book about a girl and her horse, which I think is like the first story. And then I'm trying to think I think one of the first things I tried to write was the romance. And you used to, so like 80s, you would send away for their guidelines, and then they'd send you this big packet, and it would be like word count, and our readers want sensuous stories, and you need like these, like on by page 60, they need to have been banging 3 or 4 times, and so like that was kind of how I started. But I was like really timid, and I just like didn't know how to finish things. I knew how to start things, but I feel like that's kind of common writer thing. It's fun. It's fun at the beginning. It's easy.
So what brought you to writing, to actually finishing a book?
So I moved from Southern California to Pacific Northwest in the early 90s. And I'd always wanted to write. And I had stories and things, but nothing ever finished. And I was like, okay, you have no money, you have no friends. There will never be a better time for you to buckle and do this. And so I actually did complete a novel. It was not a romance. I was really into the Hollywood Sunset Strip hair band scene, like glam bands. And so I wrote a book about a band that wanted to be famous in Hollywood. And that was the one I finished. I know I listened to Jeannie Lynn talking about, like, I'm sure I had that UCLA extension romance class, that catalog that circled in my pile, it's like I didn't have confidence, didn't have any money. I would go, did all the homework, learned how to do it. You'd go to the library, this big book called LMP, Literary Marketplace, find agents, figure out what they want. What do they want? Query with chapters, query with synopsis, query with a complete manuscript, and then go home, make copies, do envelopes. You had to give them an envelope to mail it back to you. And I did the same thing that Jeannie. I said, well, I won't give up till I get 100 rejections.
Oh my gosh.
And I gave up at 87.
And this was the glam rock book.
The glam rock book.
87. Well, 88 could have been the one.
It was just so demoralizing.
Awful. And expensive.
Yeah.
That's an expensive endeavor.
Yeah, a big time suck. And, and you just, Monday you put it all in the mail, and by Wednesday they'd be coming back. And you could just picture this intern in the mailroom, ripping them open, shoving them in, putting them back. I've actually tried to quit writing numerous times, and it never takes. So I didn't. I'm very persistent.
Same.
I'm still very persistent.
It's deep in there.
So by that time I was up here, and then I did a screenwriting. There's a super fun screenwriting teacher up here, and I did screenwriting for a while, and that was super fun too. But the same thing, you go this writers conference, you could go and pitch your screenplay, and I did a little class, and And I'm a very timid person. It was really terrifying for me. But I was like, I'm going to, put my stuff out there. And I remember you had to pay extra to do the pitching. And I was sitting across from a guy and I could tell he was hungover and he was looking at his phone.
Oh, no.
Right. Why did I pay for this?
How is this going to be better if I even get a break?
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Audacious Machine Creative, producers of the World Gone Wrong podcast, a fictional chat show about friendship at the end of the world.
So, the end of the world, the apocalyptic times we're living through can be a little stressful for everyone. And Malik and Jamie, who are the two hosts of our show, are just like two friends who have a cozy, really fun idea to just like sort of talk about what if we could fictionalize almost our anxieties, things we worry about, by coming up with really like fabulously funny topics and then like sort of bantering back and forth about like what it is that's going to happen. So, for example, what do I do if my ex-boyfriend gets taken over by an alien body snatcher, but I like him better now?
Oh.
How worried should I be about sewer alligators reading maps in downtown Chicago? Me personally, not at all, but maybe the rest of you.
You don't know. You should listen and find out.
Should I change my office hours to accommodate the vampire student in my class? So the whole idea is almost like, if the world was throwing even weirder and weirder ideas and topics and things at you, how would you manage this in like a logical fashion, right? And living through the apocalypse is really hard, but it is easier with friends and with humor.
Can confirm. If you would like to listen to World Gone Wrong, you can do that wherever you listen to podcasts, including the app that you are on right now. The show comes out every other Tuesday, and you can find more information at audaciousmachinecreative.com. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken right there to find more information. And if you stay tuned after this week's episode, you'll get a little taste of World Gone Wrong. Thanks to Audacious Machine Creative for sponsoring this week's episode. And so during all of this time, are you still reading romance? Is romance still sort of a part of your... Are you reading romance at this point?
Yeah, I'm always reading. There was kind of ups and downs, but so I was trying to write screenplays. I'm reading a little bit more screenplays.
Yeah.
And then I did, in 2008, I applied for a speculative fiction writing workshop called Clarion West, which I got into. And it is 6 weeks, 18 people picked to live in the house. You, all you do is talk about writing and write and critique writing. And we had 6 different instructors. It was amazing. Other people cook for you. I didn't have to, I'm not at home. I don't have to clean. I don't have to, all I'm take care of the family or the house of just writing. It was amazing.
I don't know if people know what Clarion West is, but when I first found out about it, I think the first thing I thought was, I just deeply wished like romance had something like that. Like imagine if there was like 6 weeks where we could take 18 people who are like, I just want to write the best romances I can and have this intensive. And for people listening, Adriana Herrera and at Steamy LitCon, along with Mel, who runs that, I don't remember her last name, I'm sorry, does something. Yeah, does Romancing the Craft, which is like a one-day kind of big workshop, but Clarion is a really fascinating model. And but does it partner with like a university? I mean, it has to be maybe UCSD, maybe? I'm not sure, but.
At least at one point, there were 3 Clarions. So the one that I did was in Seattle, and it's a nonprofit. And I don't think they were directly affiliated with University of Washington, but I think there may have been a little bit of, I don't know, help or something. But it was immersive, and they talk about business of writing and business of submitting and working with it. Like it was really comprehensive. But that workshop, like I came out of there finally with confidence, like, oh no, I can do this, and I can take critique and I can give critique. And so I was focusing on writing short speculative fiction for a while. I actually still do some of that. But at some point, or from that community, because I had my community of my spec fiction writers, my classmates. I started learning a lot about self-publishing, and that was kind of where I went back to romance again. And so I started. I can't remember. I had I guess Twilight kind of figures in this because I had a friend who is not a reader who loved Twilight, and she said, "Oh, I read this other book that you should read if you like Twilight, which is actually not even a paranormal. It was called On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves."
Oh,
yeah.
We've talked about that book.
Yeah.
Lauren Billings from Christina Lauren talked about it.
Loves it. That's the one with the it's like reverse age. It's not reverse age gap, but he's young and she's old and they're trapped on an island. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. And so then that sort of, and then I got on Twitter and started, reading about different writer, Courtney Milan and Serena Bowen, and and you could buy cheap books.
Well, and that's it, right? Like 2009 was when I got my first Kindle, and I was a pretty early adopter. All that is right around then.
And so that was when I kind of, everything stepped up, and I started reading, and just like fascinated, like how you could, or also sometimes getting stuck with like, how did I get up this? Like I had one book and it was like, they were police officers and they hated each other, but then somehow they were in wetsuits and they were doing something in the ocean. But then they had to go into like a cabin and then they were ripping each other's wetsuits off. And I'm like, what is this? So
somehow they were in wetsuits.
I think I'll write this.
So I had a friend who told me she was writing a romance. I said, I've always wanted to do that. She's like, yes, just do it. Just do it. And so, I did the first draft was like a NaNoWriMo. Like I just had two characters. I just gotten really into Major League Soccer. And so it was like a woman with a soccer player. And then as soon as I finished it, then I knew like I'm going to write a contemporary Native romance. And I kind of had already started blocking out the ideas of how I wanted to do that.
So tell us about the series and then like sort of like what was your goal? Like, I was like, what do you want a Pamela Sanderson romance to like kind of look like or be like?
So this is like, I remind my colleague this all the time. Like every day of our lives, we're surrounded by other Native people. We're working for Native issues. We're, educating people on Native issues. There's a lot of people who never come in contact to Native people other than, whatever, their random neighbor or these historical stereotypes. And so I really wanted to write stories about contemporary Native people doing what they do, like preserving culture, preserving community, promoting their community, dealing with problems that you have that aren't just always, like I guess everything is rooted in history, but like, how am I going to fund my nonprofit? How am I going to pay find a place to live when I don't have very much money? How do I pay off my student loans? Like, so trying to figure out how to tell stories about people who, especially with Crooked Rock, because it's a urban community, that finding your community when you're not in your home place and how that would look and how they all helped each other.
So the Crooked Rock Center is actually kind of funded by like lots of different tribes. Is up where you live up in Northern California, is that like sort of the case? Is that based on like a real idea that like there are places where there are confluences, like so many tribal affiliations, like living in a city that they wouldn't know each other? Or is that something that I'm sorry to say, I just don't know, right? So I was really interested in the idea that then like the different, right? Like, so the beginning of the first book, like Linda is sort of she has great ideas, but is disorganized, and she's kind of like, and the new board is essentially pressuring her, like, we aren't getting the like results we wanted. Right. And I was really interested in sort of the, like, how real that felt for any nonprofit, but also I was kind of curious if it was, based on kind of like how hard it is to have like an urban affiliation group where there's so many different tribal affiliations.
So, yeah, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but like I think Oregon has about 18 federally recognized tribes. And I think Washington might have 22, 28. But so like Seattle area, there's urban community centers, Portland, there's also community centers. So there was a movement. I should have done my homework before we started. There's a movement that for the U.S. government kind of wanted, thinking that what would save Native people would be assimilation and intentionally relocating. They relocated people to Chicago. And so there are urban communities in those areas too, Chicago, I think Minneapolis. And then, so yeah, there is a Portland area kind of community center that I was sort of, I mean, I didn't like go and study them, but that was sort of the idea of what I was doing when I invented Crooked Rock.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting was how young in the first book, Henry and Rayanne are like young, like just out of college. But by the last book, like Arnie and Linda then are in their 30s. And I found myself thinking, like, I don't know if I can think of a lot of like mixed age group kind of series either. Huh. Was that intentional or just the way it kind of goes?
No, I just said because Arnie and Linda had some history. And so like time passed for them. And then also for them just to be a little bit more established in what they were doing, where some of the younger characters were just kind of like new to it, figuring it out, trying to figure out what's my place in this. I want to create this urban community, but I don't really know if I have skills or how to do it.
So I'm always interested in like the actual process. Were you thinking at the time, like, okay, I'm going to try and traditionally publish this? What was the thought process once it was finished?
So it never even occurred to me to try to publish it because I had already gone through all this agony with screenwriting and with the other glam band novel and even short fiction. You know, you submit and then you wait 6 weeks and you get a rejection. Then you submit. And it's just like, I've finished it. I want to get it out there. And since I had already tried self-publishing, I knew that's how I was going to do it. And then I had mapped out, I shouldn't mapped out as a strong. I had ideas, like a 1-sentence idea for 4 books. And so that was the idea that it would be 4 books trying to tell the story. The story about the nonprofit center was supposed to be just like a little thread holding them together. And that really got away from me. And I feel like they probably don't work super great as standalones because of that. But yeah, I know there was a point where I thought, why didn't I at least try? But I was raring to go. And so I just did it.
And so can you talk about the response to it? Because I feel like I read Heartbeat Braves. I had to have been right around when it came out.
Yeah, like 2016.
And I can't remember how I knew that it existed, but I just did. So can you talk about the response? I mean, obviously, I exclusively ingest romance content, so that's how I knew about it. But can you talk about response and what people thought of the book, what you heard from readers?
I was going to say, Sarah, you heard about it because you're Sarah. And you're like out there, like you're looking under rocks to find books.
I know. I'm like, I have nothing to read. What can I find?
Self-publishing is really, really terrible. I mean, it was just, there were times where I was like, because I like did homework and was hustling and paying for promotions and, querying, like, can you review my book? And, when people do it for their blogs, so just trying, think outside the box. I contacted numerous Native organizations in Portland. I will bring you some paperback books if you think anyone in your organization would like these. At one point I said it was like just standing on your porch and saying, hey, everyone, I got a book. You want to read it? It was really also very demoralizing. So I really didn't get a huge response. I mean, the people that I heard from, like my mom is in our community, our Native community, and she would say, oh, I was at Weaving and some of the girls were asking about your books. And so like that was really gratifying. But I feel like during November or like when people, Native American Awareness or whatever the month is called.
Heritage.
Heritage Month or book bingo, like in that context, I would hear from people, but just in sort of general, like, this is a interesting area of romance I haven't seen before. There really wasn't that.
One of the things that Jen and I have been talking about sort of as we were preparing to talk to you was this, it feels like there isn't a very large community of Native authors writing in romance. But maybe we're wrong about that. Do you feel like the community has grown? Do you feel like were you finding other writers right at the very beginning?
No, not really. So my support group was my Clarion West group. And, people read romance, even if they're spec fic geeks. And so they were kind
even
of
if they don't admit it.
The truth. Yeah. Fine. Like, listen, I've suspected it all along.
My friends there were beta readers and encouraging and spreading the word and that kind of thing. So that was kind of my support group. Prior to that, I had a screenwriting group too, and that was kind of a good support group to keep me going. But I did very early before that, there was a Native writers group that I was involved with in the 90s. And that was like really more about community. There was a little bit of mentorship and stuff. That was with the headbangers, and we called them headbanger novel.
The glam rock.
Yeah, but I didn't, I kind of lost that connection. And so really now I don't have a community of Native writers. I know Danica Neva, and I have not, it's in my TBR, but I'm like, oh, yay, young writers coming up. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, and traditionally published, but I think, she's very open on social media, I think, about how the difficulties, which seem the same kind of what you described of, sort of platforming stories by Native authors that don't traffic in some of those stereotypes that were so pervasive in the genre back at the beginning, and might still be. This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Blue Box Press, publishers of The Reluctant Flirt by Jennifer Probst.
So Sierra Lord is having a terrible time of it, Jen. Her husband has had an affair, and she just needs to escape their small town of the Outer Banks. She heads to New York City for just like one weekend of being away from it all. And getting a little tipsy in a bar with a charming stranger seems like the perfect way to forget your troubles.
It is.
No names, no promises, just one night between adults to escape reality and regain her confidence, because her husband might have had an affair, but this man she is spending the evening with has only eyes for her. The next morning, though, she wakes up, the sun's shining, and she is mortified. She takes off, goes home, and is like, oh, at least I'll never have to face that man again. Gets back to the Outer Banks, and life is good, except there are whispers of a hotshot developer coming in to bulldoze the whole small town out there, including Sierra's beloved shop. And this guy is obviously a trash person. So when he wanders in, Jen, guess who he is?
I don't have to guess, Sarah. I know. And he's there to do some nailing.
Okay, so in comes Kane Masterson. He's got a name now, and Sierra's going to have to forget that he's also got sort of magic hands and a great mouth, because now she hates his frickin' mouth. She won't let him demolish her special town. She'll let him demolish something else special, though.
All right. So anyways, you can tell we are delighted by this entire plot and think you will be too. So if you would like to check out The Reluctant Flirt, it is available in ebook and in print. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Blue Box Press and Jennifer Probst for sponsoring this week's episode. Do you still read romance? Do you still think about writing romance? Or did you feel like, you wrote your 4 books and that was a complete set, and you have, like, what's next in terms of what you think of as your place in the genre?
Okay, so first of all, yes, I still read romance, and my TBR is out of control, and you two ladies have contributed to that problem.
You're welcome.
I'm on a very strict diet, which means instead of buying every book I want, I only buy every 3rd book I want. So I always joke, like, I can't finish all these books even if I was in prison. But So I know I'm not done. And so I had outlined in some chapters for a fifth book about Audra. She was the attorney in those books.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was really hard. It's really hard to have a full-time job and run a household and write books. So I wrote 5 books in about 5 years and do all the promotion and like figure it all out myself. And it just paid someone to do like the proofreading and copy editing, paid someone to make those covers. So I really never thought I'm going to get rich and famous doing this, but I thought, well, it'll be easy to break even. And I don't even think I've broken even yet now. And so I was just like, I don't know if I can, like, I kind of lost a little bit of heart for it. And then I was trying to write other things and just really struggling with finishing non-romance things. And then we had a pandemic, and like everybody, I was like, oh, I have all this time. I'm going to get all this writing done. And then all of a sudden, like the whole day went by and I've just stared out the window. What is wrong with me? So it was kind of validating to hear that lots of people kind of dealt with that. So in the last couple of years, it's the same thing. I have so many partials. I have a couple like, oh, I'm going to try a more suspense angle. And got a couple of those. And then like, I'm going to try a paranormal. I got that. And then, so I'm buckled in now. I got it's contemporary. It's set in Northwest California, and I don't want to jinx it, so I'm just going to say that for now. I'm making good progress, and
Good.
I can finish it. I will try to query for a traditional this time. I don't know, but self-publishing is just rugged.
It sounds like you have a community of romance readers. Like, do you have a community of romance people?
A small community, but yes, I do. And I feel like you guys are my community.
We are very happy to be.
Your voice is in my ear every week.
So can you talk about that piece, that sort of community, the people who have pushed you or continue to sort of inspire you to do the work? Because I know how isolating the writing piece is. And I know how, I have experienced in a tiny way how difficult it is to make space in self-publishing. So who are the writers who you look to as like, these are the people who I'm inspired by, who are pushing me, who, I want to be in conversation with as a writer?
Oh, wow. I like so many different, like, I like to have a little bit of everything, or just to, like, I'm always interested in the stuff that's really popular, even if it's not for me.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of fun to see that Butcher and Blackbird was a little bit, it was a lot for me, but the writing was so good.
Oh,
and
I felt the same way.
It was like,
I tore through that book.
Yeah. So as soon as I finished, I had to send it to my friend. I'm like, read this. We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like most recently, my big love, Allie Hazelwood. I really love her books. And I'm really just fascinated about her writing style, because I feel like sometimes I've read chapters, I'm like, not much has happened and I do not want to put this down. And so it's like, how do you do that? And then I love Tessa Dare, those Spindle Cove books. They're just charming. It's like, okay, how do you do that? How do you charm me? Oh, Alexis Hall, those books are so funny. And just the voice, like, okay, how do you do it? So like that, like I do study a lot of things that I like how do you do that? How does this work? What is this person doing? And why does it work for me?
And why does it work for other readers? I mean, I think that's always really fascinating. As someone who's been reading romance for a long time, like, do you think the genre has changed?
Yeah. No, what I think is so interesting now is just how many just off the wall things that people come up with that are popular. And so like I said, I tried like a monster romance, and definitely not for me, but I was interesting. Like, oh, okay. All right. That's what this is about. So I like that there's a space for whatever it is, your robot, vampire, whatever, thruple with, like, I just like that there's so many different including, sort of standard. There's the thing that I'm writing now is a little bit different, I hope. And I keep thinking, oh, you can't really do this in romance. I'm like, says who? You can do anything.
You can do anything, yeah. As long as they end up together.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know that rule. Like the genre rule of romance is just like kind of one and so specific, right? One rule to rule them all, the HEA. When you think about genres that are maybe more expansive or aren't guided by that stridency, maybe like, speculative fiction, do you have to put on a different writing hat when you're writing something like, or is it just all up there? Like, how do you think of yourself as a writer when you switch genres?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I think it's just all up there. I don't know. Like I kind of have to get in the zone, but yeah, I created this sort of this casino in space, and then I've set different stories there. And so and I don't know, when I'm thinking like, okay, what are ideas? Like what would a bartender in space? Like what could be a problem? But but I like somehow it doesn't really cross with romance. So yeah, I don't, it's just like that I'm in a different space and a different process. So I don't know. Yeah, mindset. There you go.
I mean, I bet that bartender is really looking for love.
I was going to say,
it's like,
everybody loves a bartender.
That's like, oh, not my short fiction, but all my long fiction. That's because I was trying to write non-romance, but they always would end up, there'd always be two people that were starting to make eyes at each other. I'm like, okay, why is this happening? I am not planning that. So the two things are that, and all my stories end up having elders somehow. I will intentionally say this one isn't going to have an elder. And then next thing you know, here's an elder that comes in and takes over part of the story.
And why do you think that is? What is the core story that you're sort of coming back to there?
Well, I don't know. I guess kind of in our tradition, your elders, and I just always seem like they're really funny people that have a lot of, knowledge and cultural knowledge. And I just seem like they're always funny. And they just somehow, you always somehow need to help them, or, it's sort of more generational living. And so they just sneak in there. And then next thing you know, they're running away with it.
Well, and it speaks to Jen's observation about your books really do span multiple, like the ages are really a span. And that is rare.
Wait, I want to go back to that because in the first book, and I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, the elder who left, and she, they have to pull up the rugs in her house so she doesn't trip on them with her walker. And at one point, Rayanne says something like,
yeah, Margie is the elder.
Yeah, Margie says something like, sometimes I just look at them and think like, oh, they must have been all young and hot for each other or horny or something. And Margie kind of clumps back in and is like, we still are. Like, we still like to get any. And it really is sort of a really funny, great moment. And
it has a real Susan Elizabeth Phillips vibe that yeah, we're still hot for each other.
Yeah, and Natalie Kenya books too, right?
Yeah.
So it's true that I really do enjoy those characters in a romance. I think the other thing they almost always offer is a kind of insight into whatever it is young people are going through, sort of, I've learned this lesson myself, right? Some wisdom about how to get yourself out of this hot water you're in with this man you are so hot for, right?
Yes.
I want to talk, I sort of edged up on core story, but it's a conversation that we've had with all of our Trailblazers since we had Jane Ann Krentz on, because, she sort of blew our minds with so much. And this idea that we come back, and I'm especially curious with you because you write in multiple genres. Is there a story you feel you keep coming back to? Is there just something that you're just called to in your writing again and again?
I feel like it's keep coming back to this community. No matter what happens, I always can come back to this. There's a community for me somewhere. And I mean, this is actually, it's kind of funny because I heard my niece say this once, but with I have a very close extended family, and it's no matter where I go, no matter what I do, no matter what happens, it's the safety net I know is always there. And so in my stories, I feel like there's always that same kind of thing, is finding that community, or we found family. I love found family stories, where you know that you're safe and people get you, and you don't have to explain yourself. You're just a part of it. And I feel like that's what I'm doing.
Well, and also there's like tension in that too, right? So part of the reason in the first book, like the whole setup is that like Henry's uncle is on the board, Ernie, and is sort of like mom is meddling and wants him to have a job, and right? I mean, so like it's both supportive and wonderful when you need it, but can also be, I think, right, like the books from what I remember, like effectively also show that sometimes it's a little overwhelming and people are nosy or whatever else
Yeah.
comes with that, right? It's not just kind of the good parts, it's also the friction parts.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Kylie Scott, author of Wildflowers, an end of the world romance. Dean Wallace is like a grizzled, grumpy ex-military guy, and he has his eye on his sunshiny neighbor across the street, Astrid Hardy. And so when a deadly virus threatens to collapse society, he decides, like, okay, people are going to think that's paranoid theory nonsense, but he thinks the best thing to do is like kidnap her to his basement so that he can save her. And this is something where it turns out that he's right. So they watch kind of the downfall of the world play out online. They're hearing gunshots and smelling smoke, and everything seems too realistic. So, you know, law and order is gone, but like, will love remain? Well, they're going to have to find out. They can't stay in the basement forever. They're going to have to get out and see the world as it is. And it turns out that maybe Astrid and Dean, with like a good helping of Kylie Scott's like really awesome humor and the way that she approaches her, even like the worst scenarios are going to get her characters into like a fun place with each other, they're going to have to figure out how to find love in this awful new world that they have inherited. Well, if you love the idea of an end of the world romance, then Wildflowers just might be for you. You can read it right now in print or in ebook. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now and be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Kylie Scott, as always, for sponsoring this week's episode. I know that you spoke at the very beginning about how when you came into writing, you sort of thought, well, why can't Native people write, you know, just joyful, like fun books? And I wonder if you could talk, because I actually this morning I didn't realize that I was on your website and I didn't realize that you had written a prequel, Not Your Mascot. And I mean, what a fun, first of all, I read it in like 3 minutes. I was so excited. But I wonder if you could talk about the politics of it all, because I mean, obviously there are politics. All of us are writing politics all the time, small p. And so, but I wonder if you could talk about just like the weight. Is there a weight of being the first? How do you think about that? How do you reckon with it as a writer?
So when I did this, when I joined that Native writers group in the 90s, I remember listening to one of the older writers talk about, like, when you're a Native writer, you're a political writer. And I really had to think about that, because I thought, I'm just a dummy. I don't know what that means. But yeah, I need to put that mascot story into the ebook. And that's just like, on my long list of things. But I actually felt like I had gone too hard on that story. And then I read some stories. I read some stories about people who did mascot protests, and I was like, I didn't go hard enough. Those are really, people can be awful.
Right. It's set at a college, just for frame of reference for everybody. This prequel is set at college because it's the characters from one of the books in the series have a history, and this is a taste of their history. And the heroine is the head of a Native Students Alliance, NASA, and and there is a mascot at this college that they're protesting.
Yeah, so they get their student group, they make signs, and they go, that story sets up a lot for that book too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I did have to think about the stories I wanted to tell. Like, how do you can you tell stories with that kind of the more serious, heavy duty stuff without making it so that the reader, hates their life? Like, can you make I don't want to use the word educational, but I mean, could you make an educational story that's actually fun and entertaining? Because I actually love that too, when a book teaches me something that I didn't even know I wanted to learn. Um, so that was intentional, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know the weight of it. I just was trying to do what I did. I didn't know where out in the world it was going to go, so I didn't worry about that as much as just trying to do it in a way that was respectful and as real as not, you want to dramatize it and everything, but that also is like genuine in a way that was genuine.
I love genre. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't. And it seems like you also love genre, but like genres also can be very like formulaic. When you think about yourself as a writer and a reader, what is the draw of like genre? And it seems like you're like kind of a multi-genre reader and writer, as opposed to like, is it just because literary fiction is like kind of too heavy?
Oh, I like literary fiction too. I love every, I mean, I love everything. Like, I don't read a lot of memoir. I don't read a lot of nonfiction. So I can't really say I love everything, but any
Fiction in general.
yeah, fiction, popular things that I usually try to check out the award winners, major awards, or just, word of mouth. People say, oh my gosh, this like a Theory of Bastards by Audrey Schulman, I think it is. A friend of mine gave it to me. And I was like, why don't more people know about this book? It's speculative. It's good. It's interesting. It's very different. It's about these scientists studying bonobo. Bonobo, are they chimpanzees? I don't know. I'm not an ape. And things happen. It's good.
Things happen.
I think that's my
things
favorite.
happen. I think that's really for me the big thing, right? Yeah, things happen.
We always end the Trailblazer conversations with the same two questions. So I guess the first one is, what is the book that you think you hear the most from readers about, and why do you think that is?
Well, it'd probably be the first one because that's the one that most people have read. But I would love for it to be the fourth one because I feel like I really threw out a lot of threads and I managed to put them all together in the last one and set it up and pay it off. So I feel like anyone who didn't make it through all four, you really should try because it pays off.
One of my favorite things about Arnie is how he keeps saying, like, I don't say this that often, but you were right. Right?
So that is Crooked Rock Braves.
Crooked Rock Braves, yeah,
is the fourth one. And you think people need to read the whole series in order to really deliver. Hey, listen, it's a ride. It's a very fun time, everybody. You're going to have a great time.
Because the Crooked Rock thread kind of affects everything that happens through the whole thing. But yeah, there's a lot of good. Yeah, I think it's worth reading all four. But the things that mostly just the things that meant the most to me that I heard was like from my niece and from, like my mom said, young women in our community, just that they found a book about them and that was really meaningful to them, and that made it all worth it. But it's also really hard when it takes a year for me to do this, and then it comes out a week later. Hey, when's the next one? I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a young woman out there, thinking about writing these kinds of stories?
Oh, yes, please. We need more own voices. And I'm sure I'm going to bung this up. I think there's over 400 federally recognized tribes and Alaska Native villages. So there's a lot of stories out there. So we can never run out of Native stories from Native voices. And I don't make a pitch for TV shows, but there's a show called North of North on Netflix that's set in an Inuit village, and it feels very authentic to me. It's super cute and funny. So if that would be another way to consume some authentic Native voices.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Renee Adia, author of Park Avenue.
Gia Song is destined for greatness. She is the daughter of Korean bodega owners in Queens and grew up promising herself that someday she'd get herself to Fifth Avenue. And now she is there. Fifth Avenue luxury is in her reach. She has made junior partner at a prestigious law firm in Manhattan. She has great friends. She has a great life. She's on the list for the Birkin bag of her dreams. Everything is coming up roses. So when her boss asks her to sit in on the hush-hush family implosion of a high-level client, the billionaire K-beauty empire Park family, Gia accepts without hesitation and realizes that this is going to be an incredibly messy situation. The patriarch of the Park family is filing for divorce from his dying wife. Their 3 children cannot stop sniping at each other, and the family fortune and legacy is under threat because this is going to turn out to be the absolute worst possible kind of scandal. Gia has been hired to set everything right, to make sure that the scandal doesn't implode the family, and she has 1 month to do it. So this book takes you on a ride from high wealth New York through across the world. There are private jets and yachts and a really amazing sort of road trippy feel of this dysfunctional billionaire behaving badly kind of vibe. So I loved it. It's a book about secrets and lies and how everything is going to work itself out. And there's a romance in there too, for those of you who, like me, refuse to read a book that doesn't have one.
So if you are interested in checking out this Park Avenue delight, including Birkin bags, what's going to happen, you should check out the book in print, ebook, or audio. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Renee Adia for sponsoring this week's episode. What about other Native authors who are writing outside of romance or who are writing, who writes horror? Is it Stephen?
Oh, Stephen Graham Jones.
Oh, everybody talks about that book about the deer, and I just don't. So are there other Native authors you think people might enjoy that maybe aren't writing romance, but that are writing books that you have found really?
Well, Louise Erdrich, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
She's
She's
amazing. And man, seems like every year I'm like 2 or 3 years behind now. Oh yeah, who else have I read recently? Yeah, I should have prepared for this. I'm drawing a blank. Look at my bookshelf.
That's okay. Sometimes we ask questions and we don't tell people in advance.
Sometimes, and literally people ask us all the time, what should I read? And I've never read a book, so it's fine.
Rebecca Roanhorse.
Oh,
she writes genre. She's really good. Yeah, I like her a lot too. Yes, I came with you, and then Danica Neva. Even though I haven't read it, we all need to read it. Own Voices.
Yeah, buy the books you want to see in the world, everyone.
Yeah, her new book is called Love is a War Song, and I think it comes out in mid-July, so probably right around when this comes out.
Yep.
So,
oh yay! All right, I'm gonna keep my eye out for because I don't have enough books to read.
But in the meantime, you can read all of Pamela Sanderson's books right now. They're all available. Wherever you get your books.
Wherever you get your books. Library too.
And start at book 1. I think, yes, they are very interconnected.
Start at that great fast.
Oh, at the
prequel story. It's terrific.
The mascot.
Yeah, it's on my website.
We'll put links and everything in show notes. But Pam, thank you so much for joining us and for talking to us today. It means so much to us whenever we have somebody on who is unique and interesting and game and into the genre. And these conversations are so valuable, and I'm so grateful to you.
Well, and thank you. I appreciate being here. It's nice to meet you. And I wish your tour was coming to the West Coast.
Me too.
I'm sure our paths will cross someday.
I really will make sure. We'll make sure it happens someday. For sure. All right.
Definitely.
Thanks so much, Pam Sanderson.
Thank you.
What a great person
Yeah, it was great.
What a fun conversation. I am so happy that we were able to do that we were able to make that happen.
Yeah, no, me too.
One of the things I kept thinking about was, and this is like so obvious, one of the things I kept thinking about was like the fact that we can really only name Pamela and Danica. And I just think, and as she said at the very end, like there are more than 400 recognized tribes. And I think that the fact that we don't have more stories from writers in these communities, because I know there are writers in these communities, is something that it's our responsibility to fix. So like I said, then, buy the books you want to see in the world, everyone.
Yeah. Well, and I think I was really interested. So one of the, and I like mentioned it during the conversation, and I'm sure I've mentioned it on the podcast before. When you're teaching, I mean, when you're reading for yourself, obviously, right? Like I just want any story that feels like fresh and new and different. Like I really was truly, I'd sort of forgotten that like one of the things I really loved about this series is that it's kind of multi-generational, right?
Yeah.
And not just in the characters and who is in their families, but in like the love stories themselves. But I think as romance readers, I'm hoping you can look back at these old historicals and be like, well, this is not okay, right? Like,
so when we talk about these old historicals, everybody, we're talking about like Savage Thunder, like books where like Fabio has been given a black wig and, and it is very clearly a nod to racism and a kind of a look at Native people as
like stereotypes in every way.
The stereotyping of Native people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the other parts about it is because these largely appeared in historicals. So I mentioned this woman named Debbie Reese who keeps a blog about Native American representation in children's literature. And one of the things she says sort of over and over again is if you only talk about Native people as if they're all gone, right? Like Native people are still here. And so the other problem, along with the terrible sort of stereotypes in these books, is that they're all historical, right? Like that's just something that was part of our history. But like, we don't have to worry about Native people now because like it just was something that, in the past. And so having contemporary romance with written by Native people with Native characters also seems like important in a kind of a different way for saying like, here's who we are now, not just like, here's who you thought we were then.
I mean, I will say, I do just want to name that like there were a rash of like Native characters, often like half Native in the 80s and 90s in contemporaries, especially in like a lot of those category romances were, and they are over on the reread. And I will say, like, as a kid, I ate those books up, and on the reread, they all feel just very racist. So, yeah, read Pamela's series. It's really fun. You're going to love the big cast of characters. Read Danica. Marcella Bell is somebody who I've talked about on the podcast recently. And if you are a Native person writing Native romance out there, please reach out to us. We want to read your books and shout about them.
I'm always really interested in hearing hearing Trailblazer stories about themselves as readers or writers. I don't know. I kind of forget because I'm constantly surrounded by readers and right, you're a reader, I'm a reader. It's all I do. To hear how powerful it is for people to say oh yeah, I was a kid, I was a reader and I went to the library and, Pamela, almost every Trailblazer has sort of mentioned the importance of Kathleen Woodiwiss. The foundational parts of the genre are still with the people who are writing books and talking about them now. And that's one thing I don't think I would have predicted as we've done this series.
I agree. I mean, I often, almost every time we hear that from a Trailblazer, I think to myself, like, we really should read Flame in the Flower, like, for a deep dive. But I fear that people will perceive it as us endorsing Flame in the Flower.
Well, and I think that's like part of the thing that's like really hard about any kind of genre fiction, right? And this is also, right, the thing that I think about a lot, again, like the Jane Ann Krentz episode really like framed a lot of my thinking, right? Like if genre is carrying the myth of like whoever you are as a culture right now, then of course, right, like genre is also going to really reflect back some of our most, the hardest things about
the worst
who
of
we
us
were then. And I do think that's like a really interesting question. And listen, I loved when Pamela was like, I thought it was this author, but it was this author. It's like story of my life.
Exactly. But listen, she was right. When she was referencing those, the books that the historicals that had those titles, like it could have been anybody back then. Yeah. I was really moved by her talking about just writing in multiple genres, like really just like searching for, what did she say? Like stuff happens, or like, yeah, like I think it's so obvious to me that like she is somebody who's just like in love with the work of it, like the craft of it. And it's romance, it's speculative, it's screenplays, whatever it is. It's just she wants to tell stories about stuff happening. And that's really cool. And it's always nice to hear from a writer who, feels that way.
One of my favorite questions is about like kind of core story, like what is the story someone's telling? And, it was really interesting to hear her talk about like, I wasn't going to include an elder, but they sort of appeared on page anyway. The idea that some things are truly just so like built into your system as a writer that they're going to appear no matter what. And that's like to sort of go into a book and say, I'm not going to do this thing, and then it happens anyway, I think is really powerful.
But it's interesting because you and I have we've had episodes on grandparents, right? Like on like those sort of elders in romance. And now I will always, whenever I think about that, make sure that Pamela is in the mix on that, because I think, yeah, it's real, that's very clear in her books. I loved your point, Jen, about just like cross-generational storytelling. Like it, and as you said it, I hadn't thought of it myself. And as you said it, I thought, God, there really are not. I'm not sure I could name. I mean, like I mentioned Susan because I think Susan does that really particular thing where she's got like elder
secondary
people,
love story, right?
And often the secondary love story is with like older people. Like there is usually like an older person on page in a Susan novel who's like doing a different thing. But like, I'm not sure I can think of another author who has written multiple characters in the same universe at different ages and as primary love
right
stories.
Well, and so in this case, like in the first book, Henry's uncle is Arnie, and they're closer in age than you'd think, like maybe 10 or 12 years apart, right? So Henry's 24 and Arnie's in his mid-30s, but it's a very clear from the book that like he considers Arnie is like young enough sometimes for them to have like common like things, but Arnie is his uncle, his his mom's brother, and he has to sort of like listen to him in a certain way and respect him in a certain way. This is a man who looks great in a suit. It's like really funny. And I think that like that. So then, and it was funny because when you first, and so I went back and reread Heartbeat Braves, which is the first one, and was sort of like, oh yeah, like I remember when I first read it thinking, oh, like they'll be Linda and Arnie will be like the background couple in this book because they're like older, right? And then no, they get their own book in book 4. And I remember thinking like, this is actually kind of cool. They're not just relegated to being like secondary characters, like they're their own characters. But it was, I did think like that. I don't know that I've read that either. So it did really strike me as being kind of notable in some way.
Yeah.
Listen, these are great reads, and I hope that everybody both, takes a chance to check out Pamela's series, which is like a great read for whatever you're doing this summer, but also Danica Nava's new book, Love is a War Song, comes out next week on July 22nd. So if you're inspired by this episode and loved hearing Pamela talk about her books, then you can check those out, but also go ahead and pre-order or get ready for reading Danica's book, which comes out next week. And her first book, which came out a year or two ago, was The Truth According to Ember.
Thank you all so much for listening to us always. These Trailblazer episodes are some of our very favorites. If you love hearing from a first or love hearing about the history of romance and want to learn more, you can go to fatedmates.net/trailblazers and find all of the Trailblazer episodes that we've ever done. We are asked all the time, like, do we have favorites? And truly, like, every time I think, oh, that's my favorite. Oh, no, that's my favorite. And then it's just every one of them is my favorite. So head over there, do that. If there's somebody else in the world who you think we should be interviewing, another Trailblazer you think we are missing, shoot us a message and let us know. You can find us online at fatedmates.net, where you can find show notes. If you click on episodes, you'll get a full list of our episodes. If you click on collections, you'll see a collection of collected books, a collection of collections collected by people, real people, not AI. This is not an algorithm. It's real people, real listeners, real people in the world, authors, etc., building groups of books that we think that you'll love. So head over there to find your next great read. You can also find us online at Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. And I think we're on Tumblr too, still. So if you ever want to reach out and let us know about an episode or a person you wish that we were in contact with, please do. If you just love talking about romance as much as we love talking about romance, you can do that all the time, 24 hours a day on our Discord. It's a private space for Fated Mates listeners. To join it, you have to join our Patreon. So you can do that at fatedmates.net/Patreon. I am on tour for 2 more days. So I hope I'll see you tonight in Atlanta or tomorrow in Indiana. You can find information on that at fatedmates.net. You can find information on that at sarahmclean.net/tour. And then, I don't know, Jen, do you have anything going on this month?
No, I'm just reading, Sarah. Don't talk to me.
All right. Don't talk to Jen.
And stay tuned after this week's episode. You'll get a little taste of World Gone Wrong.
Thing is, it's not that hard.
Okay, but it's not straightforward either. The calendar isn't really.
All you have to do is lie to a period track app one time and bam, there it is. Never caught by surprise again.
Oh, hey.
Right? It's called a cycle for a reason, not like it stops.
Yet.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Although scientifically, how would that even...
How does anything happen these days? Ooh, are you recording?
I am, are you?
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of World Gone Wrong with Malik and Jamie. I'm Malik. And this?
Jamie, I'm Jamie.
Someone on the radio said something about the sun going out forever in a month or so. But we all knew the end was near, nothing to be done from here. So I shake my head and off to bed I go.
So, like we said, this is World Gone Wrong, and we are here to discuss and explain our ever-changing reality in ways that inform and entertain you, the listener, who will hopefully exist at some point. Fingers crossed.
My dad said he'd listen.
Ooh, then hello and welcome to Jamie's dad.
Hi, Dad.
Ooh, what if we narrowcast this? Did a whole episode just for your dad?
Yeah, it'd be like IT jokes, gardening tips, recipes for squash. I don't know how to hand mend something.
I need to know that.
Yeah, listen, he's getting into it. Maybe next episode. So we are here.
Yes, I am your dashing Chicago correspondent, and Jamie is your equally dashing co-host, broadcasting all the way from scenic small-town Colorado. How is it out there, Jamie?
It's... Have you seen the news about...
Yeah, are you guys okay? I mean, I assumed when you didn't answer the call, screaming, but...
We are. And, okay, answering your first question, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? How's Chicago?
Fine. And weird.
Yeah. So the show, I think we said we would look at the current moment, everything that's happening, and take it one catastrophe at a time. And today's episode, we were starting simple with werewolves.
Werewolves. But before we get into that, some quick background. Like, who are these people in your ears right now?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
We are two younger millennials, which is to say, our world's been rushing down the drain basically since we've been aware of it. When we first moved in together, we decided to throw a Halloween party. While we were choosing the music, we realized each of us had a playlist of upbeat tunes about the end of the world. And I think that outlook uniquely qualifies us to comment on everything happening now.
Okay, two things. Never talk about that party again. And second, does that qualify us?
What, have you heard the boomers try to make sense of this? We are experts compared to them. What else? We met on Craigslist, which sounds like medium sketchy.
Only if you say it like that.
Yeah. We're roommates.
Normally, we're roommates.
Temporarily estranged roommates. Once and future roommates. Roommates, but right now the room in question is half the U.S.
Maybe a third. There's a lot of West where I'm at.
Yeah. Last month, Jamie decided to go stay with family for a while for, the unpleasantness.
Now, that is a euphemism.
Okay, the great infucking, in which all was mercilessly infuckened.
Voice of a generation over here.
I'll take it. And this show is our little project to keep from going stir crazy and also to stay in touch despite the many cruel miles of American geography that seeks to part us.
For the record, my idea was a group chat.
Yeah, but this way I get to hear your dulcet tones and we get to share our thoughts with the world of your dad. Plus, a group chat wouldn't be half as loud. We have a range of decibels to explore. We can whisper, we can shout, we can sing. Ooh, that was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, was it A?
Sure. So what are we? What do we want to talk about?
I actually have an advice question for us.
This is episode 1. Where did you get a question from?
I may have scraped Reddit. For future episodes, listeners, Jamie's dad, feel free to write in. We can anonymize you if something's embarrassing. We're here to help.
Is that the name of the segment?
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Welcome to We're Here to Help.
Our first ever segment.
It's not hard to tell. The world is unwell, but we are here to help. Ding.
That was incredible. Did you write that ahead of time?
Oh, gosh, not at all. That was me living in the moment. So this is from r/dogs, which you'd think would be getting a lot more traffic since then.
I think most of that is in news subreddits. R diagnose me, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
R near misses. R oh god, help.
Do we think these people are opening Reddit mid-wolf attack?
They really could be in shock.
Who wouldn't be? Jamie, if you'd like to do the honors.
Cool. So, my 5-year-old dog Pepper got bitten last week. We took him to the vet and he's all patched up with minimal blood loss. A real roller coaster of an opening there. I told the vet it was a coyote just to be safe, and I think she believed me. But he's a Pekingese, so my main worry is that when he changes, he'll try getting into fights with much bigger animals. He could really hurt himself. Any suggestions? Wow, okay.
It's a tough one, right?
Well, I think we've all had to brush up on how to evade werewolves in the past couple of weeks, but I haven't heard anything on how to protect a werewolf, or dog wolf in this case.
Last week I would have said, hey, are we sure that a non-human animal can even catch lycanthropy?
Oh, we were so young. So innocent.
But then Bloomfield Hills happened.
Bloomfield? Which one was that?
You didn't hear about this? It's all over the local news. Oh, so Bloomfield Hills, very rich suburb of Detroit. Some people out there have horses, not like cowboys, obviously. Equestrians.
A horse got bitten?
Yeah, it was bad. You don't always think about how big a horse is, how fast it can go. Then you're staring down a supercharged horse-wolf hybrid that wants your blood. At first, the people there thought they were safe because it was like in a paddock.
Oh, but obviously the horse wolf knocked it down.
Like so much wet cardboard. Even without the otherworldly strength, I think like a normal wolf could have gotten out. People just aren't prepared for that in the suburbs. What's been bitten in your side of the woods?
We had a few bighorn sheep go wolf. They injured some hunters. Someone came back the next day and got them. Also, there was this raccoon in our yard last full moon.
Uh-huh.
At first, my dad thought the raccoon had rabies. It was so aggressive. I mean, it could have still been rabies.
Are you going to tell me what this raccoon was doing, or do I have to rely on my finely honed imagination?
Dad said he saw It was definitely a raccoon. It had the tail, but he saw it take down a wounded bat. Take down and then eat. So the upside is no matter what, we don't have to contend with werebats.
Again, yet.
Yet. It was moving faster than an animal should be able to move, so he didn't get a great line of sight, but he thought it had more of a snout than usual and longer legs, bigger teeth.
Ooh, your dad didn't get bit, did he?
Oh, he stayed in the house. We both did. Even if it was just rabies, there's no way we're tangling with that. You know I would have led with that if my dad had mysterious bite marks right now.
Yeah.
When I say fine, I mean fine.
Okay, nobody on the planet is actually doing fine.
You know what I mean. We grade on a curve.
I know.
You have to trust me that things are, I don't know, adequate.
In that case, if nobody but the bat was hurt, not to get pedantic.
Yeah?
Werebat, the thought is that were actually means man. A Batman? Oh, wait, a Batman would actually be a big help right now.
That depends on which run you're, you know what, okay. We're not going to get into that now.
Yeah, stakes are high. Oops, stakes. Wait, stakes are vampires. That's not a pun. Big relief. Okay, so saving the life of Pepper the Pekingese.
Well, the good thing is they've got time.
They've got...
At the time of recording, we had a full moon a week ago. Assuming this was posted today, they've got about 3 weeks. Like I said, unlike werewolves themselves or pod people or anything else in that vein, the moon cycle doesn't sneak up on you.
3 weeks to do what?
Get your dog fitted for an extra strength muzzle. Maybe that sounds harsh, but it beats the alternatives.
So I have a creeping suspicion you don't know what a Pekingese is.
Well, they're small, right? I'm not saying it'd be easy to find one that fits. It's just, you know, like...
Jamie, my sweet Jamie, what I need you to do right now is pause the show and Google image search one of these suckers.
Okay, hang on. Oh.
Yep.
That is one flat, tiny little baby face.
And yeah, he'll have a snout once he changes, but I don't know how you'd find anything that would stay comfortable before and after. Plus, do we even know if... Okay, so a dog can get the bite and transform, but does that still spread it?
I don't know, but that is like, do not take that gamble.
Because I'm not saying I'm not worried about this Pekingese attempting to start something with a bigger werewolf.
Or even just an actual coyote.
Or like a large cat. I mean, these guys really are the size of a lunchbox. But my thing is, if a tiny dog wolf bites your ankle and that's enough to spread it, that feels maybe even more dangerous than a really big, even the horse wolf. Like a fanged, muscled horse charging at you with murder in its eyes, you clear the area. But people don't see a Pekingese and think, run. It's like how more people die each year from falling flat-screen TVs than shark attacks.
Really?
Yeah, I forget the actual number, but I think it's around twice as many. We know to fear sharks. We think about those pointy, toothy killing machines and we go, maybe a pool instead. But there's no primal part of your brain whispering, hey, that TV is heavier than it looks.
Okay, in defense of TVs, sharks are also not that dangerous.
You know, in the time since you left, somehow I forgot you're a self-appointed shark lawyer.
I'm just saying.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm just saying sharks have tiny prehistoric brains and they approach the world teeth first because that's how they are made. Even if a shark tries to bite you, and it frankly is not a given that they will try to bite you, you can generally get out of it by thwopping them on the nose.
Wait. You're telling me that if a wild shark sunk its many gigantic teeth into your one fragile human body, you, Jamie, would be able to thwop?
You are so Shark Week pilled. If I'm a shark lawyer, you're a shark prosecutor.
Oh, Shark Law, Court of Sharks. I would watch that show. Take a bite out of crime. Wait, that's McGruff, the crime dog. That's a separate issue. Okay, wait, sorry. Remember when we tried to explain about the whole cartoon trenchcoat snitch dog thing to Aditi?
So speaking of dogs, speaking of this poor terrified pet owner.
Right.
There are two main problems. A, Pepper gets hurt. B, Pepper spreads lycanthropy either to other animals or to humans in his circle, all of which is to say, I think step one is to just accept that once a month, you have an indoor dog.
Wait, so to protect the neighborhood animals, we're locking the dog wolf in with a bunch of people? I don't want to be chased by a squirrel wolf or a deer wolf any more than you do, but like people, Jamie?
First of all, if we want to minimize the spread, a bitten person knows how to take precautions, and a bitten anything else does not.
So the dog owner surrenders to a lifetime of werewolfism? There's a joke here about people looking like their pets, but I won't go there.
Second of all, A Pekingese looks like it's about as big as a very large loaf of bread. All you have to do is lock it in whatever room you care about the least. No amount of wolf is going to change the fact that it can't reach the doorknob.
What if the questioner lives in a studio?
Nobody with Pekingese money lacks multiple door money.
Doesn't mean they're spending it that way. Also, the dog could be a gift or from when they had more money. People come down in the world sometimes.
Touché.
And even if you have a 2-bedroom, that's still basically destroying a huge chunk of your living space, like 12 times a year.
Everything at Pekingese height only, and you take your valuables out before.
I hear you, but the floor.
Yeah.
You are never, ever getting your deposit back.
Do you usually get your deposit back?
Point. Landlords, go figure, the one thing in the world that doesn't change. You know what else, though?
What?
We are assuming this little guy can't jump.
Probably not high with those tiny little legs.
Every inch he can gain increases the zone of destruction.
There are drawbacks.
I think the solution is clear.
You do.
You drug the dog.
Okay. You what?
I mean, according to what I've heard, that's already what the rich are doing when they get bitten. Knock themselves out, wake up the next morning a little groggy. So you go back to the vet, talk your way into some supplies, and then every 4 weeks you have a tiny, snoring little dog wolf by the side of your bed. Safe and adorable.
Talk your way into the vet giving you animal tranquilizers.
Yeah.
Okay, Malik, what does that sound like?
It sounds very charming because the safety of you and anyone you live with is on the line.
Flirt with the veterinarian? That's your plan? Do you also sweet talk them into describing the correct dosage for your dog?
Maybe it's more of a bribe.
So we're relying on the vet being corrupt.
Hey, you've lived in Chicago for years. You know how it is. The fix is in.
And if you get the one honest vet in town, keep in mind, what it's actually going to sound like is not, oh, I'm protecting my living situation from the world's tiniest shapeshifter. It's going to sound like you want to get high enough to knock out a Pekingese, a small dog. Hi, baby.
Okay, wait. Compromise. We marry your plan with my plan.
How?
I'm not saying it's a loving marriage. It's more of a marriage of convenience.
Malik, what are the compromises?
I'll explain after this commercial break.
Wait. We have commercials? Okay, on episode 1 of this show, how is this even possible?
Allow me to explain during our commercial break. Ha ha! Hello again, and we're back with my brilliant solution. Jamie's plan merged with mine. Okay, so you go to the vet, you don't try to seduce them, and you don't try to slip them a crisp 20.
What? You were only going to bribe them with $20 for what? A dog's lifetime worth of tranquilizer?
I would leave room to bargain. If you start out high, they don't respect you.
And you crave the respect of a vet craven enough to sell.
No, I crave the savings. Life is so expensive.
Okay, right. Fine.
Keep in mind, you've got to be able to afford to feed a pint-sized wolf once a month. I really doubt he's going to settle for kibble.
Also, the therapy bills for you and everyone you live with.
Also that. So, okay, the compromise. You go back to the vet, who may be a wonderful person. I don't know why we keep smearing this imaginary stranger's name. You say, hey, I'm sorry, but my dog won't stop trying to bite at the spot you patched up.
Oh.
Yeah, you get a shame cone. And this is very key, you put the cone on the dog before he transforms. And then you lock him in. See, this part it's still a problem because not everyone has multiple rooms, but you get where I'm going. You gain a layer of extra protection and your dog won't be able to chew through a door.
That would be a lot of chewing.
How much door could a wolf dog chaw if a wolf dog could chaw door?
I guess even if it can't get through, it could gradually weaken the door. So not tonight, but 6 transformations from now.
That's right. A were-dog is a pet for life. Don't get one now because it's trendy, folks. You're making a commitment to a whole lifestyle.
Until scientists figure out how to reverse lycanthropy.
You think there's going to be a cure?
You don't?
How could you undo changing into a different animal every month?
Just because I can't describe it doesn't mean it's impossible. I haven't read enough about quantum physics to truly understand it, but we still have all these particles.
There's faith in science, and then there's science zealotry.
Look, yeah, we don't really know. We don't know if there's a way to undo this, but given that we don't know, let's say it's a coin flip on a coin we can't see.
An invisible coin?
All right, what do we gain by acting like we're all doomed forever? Even if that's the answer, why live in that space right now when we don't have to?
It'll save you the disappointment later.
Is it worth living in fear?
Shit.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I solved the door problem.
You have?
You put a cone on the dog and then lock him in the bathroom. Even a studio generally has a bathroom door. He's less likely to claw up a tile floor, and what's he gonna do in there? Bite your toilet? Plus, when he feels the lupine need to mark the territory, that's a way easier mess to clean.
I swear, I am not trying to poke holes in this.
But
Do your bathroom doors lock from the outside?
you barricade the door.
Barricade.
It worked in Les Mis.
It did not work in Les Mis. That's like a huge part of Les Mis.
Wait, Jamie. Remember, the door doesn't need to lock. Neither dogs nor wolves have hands.
Oh, we forgot about paws. Okay, not our brightest moment.
In our defense, we're not working in our areas of expertise. Next advice column, I'll find someone whose problem involves werewolves and cooking. The Dewey Decimal System versus the Library of Congress. Women's hockey and the drama surrounding women's hockey.
It's not my fault they keep marrying players from rival teams.
Or we can do one for me, like, help, I'm running from this wolf bear monster and I also really need someone to analyze the themes in this stanza.
Okay, show off. Writing, teaching, studying, and performing your poetry Swiss Army knife.
A jack of several trades.
Okay, so back to it. We shame cone Pepper, put him in the bathroom, and shut the door until it clicks. Did we just solve it?
There's only one problem.
One? Okay, good. That's just one
I
problem.
think my sister said that dogs don't really like having those cones on. You know, it doesn't get to be called of shame if the wearer actually has a good time.
The dog might not like it, but if vets do it, then it can't actually be harmful. And I don't think any of us would like becoming a werewolf.
You're on Team Cone now?
Team cone and team door.
You post a sign over the knob so you don't forget.
Not to crack open the door behind which a furious loaf-sized wolf is going on a rampage.
You don't even need a sign.
But
What?
what if you have to use the bathroom at, any point during the night?
You visit the all-night diner across the street, buy a cup of coffee.
Do you know any 24-hour places that are still open every night of the moon cycle these days? And what if they live in the suburbs or the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, right. Or any other place where you don't want to be out at night. Yeah, that's not ideal.
I guess you could have a designated bedpan.
Ugh, gross.
That's your line in the sand?
I think it is. You know what else we're forgetting?
What?
A dog isn't a person. You can kennel a dog.
Kennels.
Just put the dog in its cage for a night. You don't even have to trank him or cone him.
Although,
What?
how strong is your average dog cage and how strong is your average dog wolf?
Are we talking about a dog wolf or are we talking about a fuzzy basketball with legs?
I think we have to assume that even a normally defenseless animal can do a lot of damage if you give it preternatural strength and angry wolf thoughts. That's why regular werewolves are dangerous in the first place, isn't it?
Did you see that video from Maine of that guy?
Of course. I do think it was probably staged.
Based on what?
Oh, first of all, I do not think of TikTok as the home of serious journalism. It's the algorithm mathematically guessing what you're likely to stare at. And second, real special effects people have put out videos explaining how you can fake those visuals.
I hope you're right because the way he rips it in two.
It could be a deep fake. It could be a clip from some obscure movie.
I think we both would have said the same thing about werewolves a few months ago. And look where we are now. Look where we are, literally. Look at the rest of it. All the... What did I say before? The great befuckening.
These are exactly the scenarios where misinformation spreads the fastest. Everyone's scared, and some people think they stand to gain from that. It's part of the human condition, unfortunately.
The look on his face, though.
That's why I think it's a movie. From what I've read, the lighting makes no sense for the time of day. Besides, who would film something like that and have the presence of mind to zoom in on his expression? You'd think a bystander would be way more worried about the claws and the, collateral damage.
You think?
Also, the sound quality is suspiciously good. No wind, no ambient noise.
Yeah.
It would be irresponsible of us to spread hysteria. Plus, we still owe the questioner a response.
They're just some Redditor. They're not going to hear this.
They might.
I guess.
Then I guess we need an answer.
Thank you.
For what?
For providing this segue. Okay, so you do everything. First, and I cannot believe we didn't mention this yet, you protect everyone else who lives there. You invest in some steel-toed boots and leg armor.
Leg armor.
Jamie, if you think there isn't already, as we speak, a place on the internet where you can buy chainmail socks, then you and I are on very different internets.
Chainmail socks?
Chainmail pants? Tell me you haven't seen some Ren Fair entrepreneur out there.
Okay, hold on. The Ren Fair scene and the TTRPG scene are different.
Uh-huh.
Have you seriously never played D&D?
I made a half a character sheet 5 years ago. It was like doing taxes, but with elf magic, which somehow made it less fun.
There are all kinds of tools on the internet now.
That whole scene really feels like, to me, no offense, nerds out of college finding a way to keep getting homework.
Says the guy studying for a living.
Whoa. It is not for a living if you don't make any money doing it. In fact, it's the opposite of doing something for a living. I am waiting tables and tending bar so I'll have the money to spend on a PhD. No sorcery to speak of, unless you count the power of words and a cold brew coffee.
Naturally.
Potion of shake a lot and then poop weird.
+1 to intelligence, -1 to constitution.
-1? Have you had coffee before?
What were we talking about?
Leg armor.
Okay, yeah, probably that exists. And if it didn't before, it could now, given the massive increase of bite injuries.
Right, and you get, welder's gloves in case you need to use your hands. And then you cone and kennel your dog, specifically in the bathroom, door firmly shut. And you wait, and you hope, and in the meantime, yeah, it's very gross, but you pee into a makeshift bedpan if you need to.
Every month?
For one night every month, because this is Pepper, your dog, who you love.
It's Pepper.
And if that's what it takes to keep him in your life, you do it, one night at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress this enough, you label your pee pan so clearly.
So since I'm the only one of us that has a Reddit account, am I going to have to type all of this out?
Maybe just link them to this episode. They don't have any responses yet. They might appreciate it.
Even the amount of verbal slapstick that it took us to get here.
It could make them feel like someone's at least along for the ride. I feel like that's the main thing we can do right now. It's part of what makes this slog worth it. The way we can all reach to each other and, even in the smallest ways, remind each other that for every stupid, sad, weird, ridiculous thing that happens to us, someone out there is dealing with some other situation just as befucked.
You're saying no one is alone?
Everyone's alone. It's one of the many things that we have in common.
I think that's as good as any place to leave off.
Yeah. This is Malik.
Oh, and hi, Jamie.
Signing out. We know things are getting weirder every day, but we hope you're doing okay. And we wish you all a better tomorrow.
And even when it's ashes, there'll be part of me that wishes we could stay.
Jamie and Malik are played by Hillary Williams and Michael Turrentine.
This episode was written by Jessica Best.
Directed and edited by Jeffrey Mills Gardner.
Our show art is by Carly Fairbanks.
And our bangin' theme song is Falling in Love at the End of the World by Olivia and the Lovers.
World Gone Wrong is produced and created by Jeffrey Mills Gardner and Eleanor Hyde.
This is a production of Audacious Machine Creative.